his bank account, Gene Paul has a balance of 0. His friend Albert has a bank balance of a negative $11.10. Which statements are correct? So I'm looking at $0 and negative 11. And if I think of a timeline or a number line, I got 0 and I have the negative 11.10. This is Jean Paul and this person is Albert. So I have a picture of the problem and that'll help me process to get my answer. It says Jean Paul has more money than Albert. Albert has more money than Jean Paul. These two questions right here are the same thing but saying the opposite. Basically, who has more money? The person with a 0 account right there, person with the 0 balance is the one who's going to have more money. So who has $0? That would be Jean Paul. So that is going to be Jean Paul. The next two, it says the absolute value of Albert's balance is greater than the absolute value of Jean Paul's balance. Well, if I do the absolute value of both numbers, I'm going to get 11.10. That's a positive number, and I'm going to get 0. The absolute value is going to be over here because it's positive. So 11.10, and it's basically saying whose is greater. Well, the absolute value of a negative 11.10 is a positive 11.10, and that is more than 0. So Albert has more. The absolute value of Albert's balance is greater. So that will be your answer there. Notice there are 2 correct answers on this problem. Okay, this problem is a little trickier. It is saying right here that some value of x, which is over there, 3 different values, is greater than 0.5. So some value is greater than 0.5. I am going to check all 3 cases to see which or if all are correct. Using 1 for my value of x, x equaling 1 here, is 1 greater than 0.5? Yes. Doing my next check, 2, x equaling 2, is 2 greater than 0.5? Yes. Checking my next one, a negative 1, x equaling a negative 1. Is a negative 1 greater than 0.5? No. So I know it cannot be a negative 1. I know it cannot be that one. Now I have to check for the other part. It's saying the absolute value of 0.5 is greater than the absolute value of my x. So in one case, we have 1. Is 0.5 greater than 1? No. In my second case, my value is 2. Is 0.5 greater than 2? Now I'm saying 0.5 greater than 2 because I have to do the absolute value of 0.5. Okay, and the absolute value of 2, and that is no as well. So it is no for 1 and it is no for 2. That means my answer is going to be no value makes both statements true. This problem is referencing sea level. So when I do my number line on this one, this is going to be my sea level, which is 0. Okay, negative numbers below, positive numbers above. So I have Henry at 10 feet, standing on a catamaran, which basically is like a bridge, feet relative to sea level. Thomas is scuba diving at a negative 12.5 feet relative to sea level. Again, I have 4 options over at the right. Okay, first one says Thomas's elevation is greater than Henry's. Thomas's elevation is this one, and Henry's elevation is that one. So one of those two is going to be correct. Thomas's elevation is down here. There's Thomas, is at a negative 12.5. And Henry's the one standing up on the catamaran, and that is here. So Henry has the higher elevation. Because think of it, this, as you go up, is higher. So Henry's is higher. The next set of questions is Henry is further from sea level or Thomas is further from sea level. Who is farther from sea level? So you're asking yourself, is 10 farther from sea level or 12.5? The 12.5 is farther from sea level. This is farther from sea level. Yes, it's a negative number, but we're asking how far from sea level. He is 12.5 feet from sea level. So Thomas is farther from sea level. So those are your answers. Again, we have a similar problem, just different numbers. Again, it's Henry and Thomas. Henry is standing at a catamaran of 23 feet relative to sea level. So again, there's my sea level at 0. Henry is 23 feet up. It is feet relative to sea level, so that's positive. That is up above ground. And Thomas is at a negative 22.5 feet, and this is Thomas. So we have the two questions. Thomas's elevation is greater than Henry's elevation, or Henry's elevation is greater than Thomas's elevation. Of those two questions, it's just saying who has a greater elevation. The greater elevation is the 23, which is Henry. So Henry has the greater elevation. In the second question, it's asking Thomas is farther from sea level or Henry is farther from sea level. So we're measuring this distance here and this distance. That is 23 from sea level. This one down here is only 22.5 feet from sea level. So the greater from sea level is the 23, which is Henry. Henry is farther from the sea level. All right, in his bank account, Martin has a balance of $14.40. His friend Emmanuel has a bank balance of $22. Which statement is correct? If we look at a number line, this being 0, this being $14.40, and this being 22. The $14.40 is Martin, and the $22 is Emmanuel. The questions then ask, Martin has more money here, or Emmanuel has more money? I'm going to go with Emmanuel because he has $22. So Emmanuel has more money. The next question is the absolute value of Emmanuel's balance is greater than the absolute value of Martin's balance. So who has a greater absolute value? That means the greater distance from 0. Just to give you a visual, his distance from 0 is 14, and here the distance is 22. So again, our answer is Emmanuel. The absolute value of Emmanuel's balance is greater than the absolute value of Martin's. Okay, we're going to have this problem here again. We have a negative 5 is greater than x, being 6. A negative 5 greater than x, being a negative 6. And a negative 5 greater than x, which is a negative 1. Which of these statements is true? A negative 5 is not greater than 6. A negative 5 is greater than 6. Think of it this way. If this is 0, this is a negative 5, this is a negative 6. Anything on that side to the right on a number line is greater. So that means that our negative 5 is greater than a negative 6. So this is a yes. On the next problem, a negative 5, is that greater than a negative 1? If we had a negative 1 there, negative 1 is greater. So this is a no. Our only possible answer now is negative 6. So let's check it. The absolute value of a negative 6 is greater than the absolute value of 5. Is 6 greater than 5? Yes, our answer is x equals a negative 6.